Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out. We are so excited to be the launch night for Emily Austin's new book. And I just wanted to say a few words first before I introduce them. We want to point out that with your registration and ticket purchase tonight, you get 10% off your book purchase. So thank you for buying your books from us and keeping us here so we can keep bringing the authors here. And we also want to thank our community partners at Montclair who helped us put the event together and bring people in and get the word out. So thanks to our reps. So I'd like to introduce Emily Austin. You want to come on, Emily? Emily's here. We're so thrilled to get her here tonight, and she's here to celebrate, as I said, the launch of We Could Be Rats. She's also the author of Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, Interesting Facts About Space, and the poetry collection Gay Girl Prayers. And she was born in Ontario, Canada, and received 2 writing grants from the Canadian Council for the Arts. And Emily studied English literature and library science at Western University, and she currently lives in Ottawa, in the territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. So thanks so much for coming all the way to Jersey. In conversation tonight, we have a Jersey girl, Michelle Hart, who's fun out, Michelle, and she's the author of We Do What We Do in the Dark, and writing of Michelle's has appeared in the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Electric Literature, and the New Yorker Online. And formerly she was the assistant books editor at O, the Oprah magazine, and currently she's at work on her second novel called Something from Nothing, and she came here all the way from New Jersey. So we'll give her a big welcome.
Is this okay?
Oh, that sounds good.
Oh, thank you. In case you want to read, you want to start off by reading?
Sure,
passage?
okay. I don't know what passage I'm going to read, so bear with me for a second. I didn't pack my book because I only brought a carry-on, so that's why I've stolen Michelle's book here. So, thanks for coming. All right. This is called Attempt 2. The first high school party I attended was in the woods. I was invited by a senior football player while in line at the school cafeteria. I went despite noticing he and his friends were only inviting girls from the 9th grade. I considered that creepy and off-putting, but not enough to forego my first high school party. When I arrived, I was relieved to see older girls there too. One of them told me the football team invited 9th grade girls because they had already dated everyone else. I watched those guys approach girls my age as if I were watching feral hogs in rut. It felt both disgusting and depressing to witness a pack of drunk boars pester piglets. There was a bonfire. They strung fairy lights from the trees and tapped a keg. I remember inhaling the smell of burnt pine needles and watching the sky turn orange through the trees. I gawked up at the branches like a canopy above us and imagined they were long, knobbly monster fingers grasping at the moon. I always imagined fanciful things like that when I was a kid. It was a trick I used to make life more stimulating. When I bit into fruit, for example, I pretended I had never eaten fruit before. I imagined fruit only existed in fairy tales and that by some miracle I'd found a wild orchard. I would rip the barcode sticker off an apple, press my nose against its skin, inhale, and bite as if I were crunching into something enchanted. I imagined roads were oceans, the floor was lava, grass was dyed coconut shavings, and the earth was a giant macaroon. There was this cornfield near my house I used to cut through. When I was in that field, I imagined I was 1 inch tall. I pretended the corn stalks were blades of grass, and I was a gnome trudging through the lawn on my way to my home in a hollowed-out mushroom. I was 13 at that party. Around that age, I had begun imagining things less. I found myself eating fruit and walking through cornfields thinking, I am eating fruit and I'm walking through a cornfield. Before I fell asleep, I used to fantasize about things like bathing in a chocolate river and having a pet unicorn. But at 13, I found myself ruminating about conversations I'd had. I thought about changing my hairstyle and about what happens when you die. My thoughts were rarely about garden gnomes, unicorns, and other little girl things anymore. I was a teenager, and it was getting worse. That's not enough, I feel like.
Your reading voice is exactly how I imagined it when I was reading.
I don't know if that's good
That's
or
good.
not.
No, it's good. It's good. So since this is your third book, I was curious, how did the conception of it and like the writing of it, how was it different, if it was, than the other two?
Yeah, it was. I think I was having a hard time writing this book. I sort of felt like I had writer's block. And I think the premise of this book is it's a note written by someone who's a bad writer. So that was my clever way of being like, this is a good way to make me actually be able to write it. So that was different. And I think it was like the beginning of quarantine, I think, when I first started to write it, which was like a hard time imagining. Like I like to listen to people it's hard when you're cooped up in your house to think of what to write about. So I was also just like more limited in what I was writing. I felt like I was doing a writing exercise more than I was writing a book.
Okay. Did you have like quarantine brain, like just sort of like where it was nothing was really making sense?
I think so. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a hard time writing at that time, or how was it for you?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of hard to do like anything at that point,
Yeah.
especially when it first happened.
Yeah.
So the first part of the book does take it's sort of epistolary, almost like sort of a half epistolary, and it struck me while I was reading it more and more, and like sort of there would be other letters that started with I lied in that previous letter, or and it took on like a very meta quality for me, like, and I was wondering if because it's really about a voice trying to figure out how to tell a story, right? And I was wondering if that was the experience of writing it, where you were just sort of like, oh, that's not how I should do it. I should do it this way.
I think a little bit, yeah. I think there were, like, it wasn't, when I first started writing it, it's not in the order that it's in, for example. Like, I was able to shuffle it up because of that. So, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you have, like, a method of unshuffling it?
No. I don't think I did. No.
Like there weren't like postcards all over the floor and you're just sort of
Maybe there should have been, but no. No.
How do you write, can I ask? Like,
I write it in just Word. Just Word, no. I probably should look into, there's programs that'll be like help you plot and things, which frankly probably I should look.
I mean, it works, right?
Well,
like Scrivener, you mean, and stuff like that?
Is that what it is? Yeah. What do you use?
Not Word.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Never mind.
My first book, my only book so far, is I wrote a lot of it in the Notes app on my phone.
I do that too. Yeah.
And I was commuting. I was living in Jersey, and I was working in New York, and so I was in Port Authority every day. And if you have any experience with Port Authority, you know how long the lines are. And I was just sort of sitting there, like on my phone, like writing scenes. And I remember distinctly writing one of the sex scenes that's in the book, like in line at Port Authority, like sort of like with this woman like looking at, I'm like.
That's great.
So one thing I really love and admire about all your work is your ability to inject light into like really dark subject matter, depression, anxiety, religious trauma, and in this one, addiction, and it's a hard balance to strike, between giving it the gravity, that those subjects need, and the levity. I mean, I laughed out loud while reading this, like probably at parts I wasn't supposed to. And I was wondering, how do you think about that consciously when you're writing? This sort of like, I should make light of this some way, or is that just how you naturally? I mean, talking with you is kind of like how you naturally are.
Oh, well, I think I'm always trying to. My intention when I write a book is I'm gonna write a funny book. That's always my intention, and then it's always sad. It's like, so I think it's like the other way. I think it's like, it's
okay.
My levity is getting ruined by the.
Have you ever tried writing a sad book?
No, I don't know if I should.
Yeah, so another thing that I really like about your writing is that it's filled with these like deeply relatable passages, and I'm sure like most of your, if not all of your readers can attest to it, that there's just sort of lines that just hit like really hard and like just sort of lines that you don't expect and you write in this sort of like dryly funny way, and so when something emotional happens, it's a wallop. And I was wondering if it seems like it's autobiographical, but is there some sort of like, how do you distance yourself like from between author and fiction?
Yeah, well, when I write a book, I tend to think of like experiences I've had.
Okay.
So with everyone in this room will someday be dead. I was raised Catholic, so I was like, okay, that's something I could write about. And with this one, so I think I pick little bits of things, and then I'm like, okay, well, it could be, it's not my story really, but I grew up in a conservative small town, for example, which this book is set in a conservative small town that I didn't want to name my town because I know that people from there would be offended, but that's basically it. Like, people protested when they put in a rainbow crosswalk, that kind of stuff. But I'm definitely not the character, and I think I lean into certain parts. And what about you, though? You're saying somewhat similar.
This is about you, man. I don't know. But are you more of a sacred, or are you more of?
Well, I was an English major, but I definitely am not. One of my sisters is one of those people one of the characters, Margaret, is like one of those people who is like hyper in tune to what other people are doing and tries to diffuse when people are getting angry, and one of my sisters is like that, like hyper anxious.
Okay.
I think I probably am too, but in comparison to her, I'm so not that it makes me think I must be more like sacred, but I think it's,
Reading it made me think of Sense and Sensibility a lot. That to me, I'm an only child. And to me, like, that's like the quintessential sister story.
Okay,
And it's a lot of echoes.
I've never thought of that. That's fun. That's a fun.
So, like, I think that, the two sisters in the book have very distinct personalities. They have very almost distinct voices. Did you have to like work for that? Did you have to sort of consciously say, I need to separate them?
Yeah, I did. Like I did. One fun thing that I like to do when I'm writing is I like to do those. I don't take these seriously myself, but I like to do those like Enneagram tests.
Okay.
I'm going to pretend I'm this person, do this, and then make sure I don't accidentally, give someone a quality that their Enneagram type or whatever. I don't even know if that's the right word. Whatever their personality type would be.
Yeah. Do you do that for all your characters?
I think I do, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else like sort of like create playlists or like songs that your characters would listen to?
I do. Yeah. I love
Can I ask what's on Secret's playlist?
I think I do have a list.
Great.
Jolena asked for one. Yeah. So I can always see if I have it in here. I do. I mean, I don't know if this is going to be interesting to anyone. I'd have to know all the. I'm searching your name in my.
Yes, we'll put on socials, don't worry.
Okay, alright. Favor by I can't say it all, it's really long. Devil Town by Daniel Johnson, Afraid of Heights by Boy Genius, American Teenager by Ethel Kenya. I made a big. Do you ever do that? Do you?
Sort of. I'm probably close to that. Like, there's a lot of Lucy Dacus.
I'm going to. I got a ticket to her show in New York. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen them live. Like, I've never seen any of the Boy Geniuses live.
Yeah.
Have you?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Was there, without like spoiling anything, was there like a scene or a chapter in this new book that I guess like was like you were looking forward to writing the most?
it's kind of hard to talk about because it kind of spoils some of the, but there there is like a midway point if you read it. There's a midway point that I had already was like, oh, that's what I'm gonna write it for. I don't know if that's yes.
But you don't want to say the same.
I can't really spoil. It's like a big spoiler.
Okay. Was there? I mean, this is sort of a similar question. Was there like a particular difficult scene for you to write? Or
it was the same one. It was the same one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're like a little bit of a masochist.
I probably am. I
Okay.
haven't thought about it, but yeah. Do you do that when you're writing? Do you have like a scene in mind when you're?
Yeah. I usually write the sex scenes first.
Oh, yeah.
I just sort of need to.
I'm just gonna work around these.
Yeah, right. It's like somebody once told me, like, I don't know if you've seen Top Gun Maverick. I think that movie's awful. I'm sorry to anybody who likes it, but I was talking to somebody about Top Gun, and they was like, it was clearly a movie where they thought of the action scenes, and they were like, oh shit, we need story around this. Yeah, and a lot of times when I'm writing, I'm like, oh shit, I need story around this, don't I? So that, I mean,
that's a better thing to work around.
Yeah, right. Okay, I want to ask a couple more questions about the book, but I also want to do something like a little different. I've been sort of getting into it. I had read this article a couple days ago about like 30 questions to ask a loved one to make you closer to them. And so I thought like it could be cool to do like a little lightning round where I ask you some. But I want to ask first, like, what queer art has like inspired you lately? Or compelled you, or turned you on.
I haven't seen that.
Sopranos.
I've been watching The Sopranos. That's what I was talking. I've been watching The Sopranos. It's fun to be. And I'm like, it's just like, that's not queer art. What have I read a poetry book called Grief Slut that I really liked.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that title.
Yeah, it's really good, and the cover is beautiful. It's really.
Okay, cool. And just like, I'm curious because I've been in conversation with a couple of authors at this point, but nobody who was openly queer, like openly gay. And I was wondering what your experiences were, if I could ask, being an openly queer, openly lesbian author now, like writing.
I mean, I feel like I've been really lucky and had a really positive experience. I have found, I love to complain. So here's a couple complaints. I'm Canadian, so like, you know, but occasionally I'll go to like a literary festival and they pair you with authors, right? And occasionally it'll be like, your topic is queerness. It's like, we got nothing to talk about.
Yeah,
like,
right.
you wrote a book about a dragon. You know. What else? I don't know. It's mostly it's mostly been really positive for me. I feel like I have been really lucky to be connected with lots of really I think especially. I'm sorry about your country, by the way. Like at this time here,
You had to go there, right?
Yeah, sorry, but you know, Canada has some similar issues, not as definitely not as bad, but similar. And I think I'm very lucky for people to have found, you know, like I know that I'm privileged to write books that queer people are actually reading and that connect people, especially when, you know, the hellscape has been opened or whatever has happened here. Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, largely it's been positive. You know, I when I first started working at Oprah, one of the things that I wanted to do there was feature like a lot of queer books, right? Like if I'm given this platform, that's what I want to do with it, right? Yeah. And I remember that like I would put together like lists of like, you know, upcoming queer books, and it was like 5, maybe 10 titles, like even back like in 2016. Right. And every year I felt like it tripled, you know, and it's a really great feeling to, you know, and I remember when I met with publicists, this doesn't happen anymore. Well, I think it does, but I'm not going to say it. But I remember meeting with publicists when I was first starting working there, and it would say, "Oh, the intense female friendships." That's how they would pitch these that's how they would pitch lesbian books to me, right? And I would be like, I don't think that's what you mean. I don't think that's what you mean. And so very quickly it started being this book is gay. Right? And I would be explicitly told finally, which made my job a lot easier.
Yeah. You're like, this is really hard to explain.
But that's one of the sea changes, and I think that the success of your first book is a lot to do with that. It kind of broke through. And is that kind of how it feels?
I don't know. I have no cause. I have had it. I remember people asking me oh, what books did you read that were queer before? And it was recently in the past few years, definitely a lot. But when I think of when I was a teenager, it's
there was one or two.
Yeah, it was Annie on My Mind. Is the one that was the one I knew about. Maybe there were others, but so there's definitely been a huge shift. It's really nice, and that's something that I think is it's nice that you're, and also no offense to Annie on My Mind, but that's not a book that I would. It's just oh, that's a gay book. It's there's no. It's just a pleasant story about lesbians. Well, not really. There's some sadness, but it's mostly.
Yeah.
It's not there's no. I'm not it doesn't have a weird thing in it that I want to read.
It's The Well of Loneliness. I don't know if you ever read The Well of Loneliness.
No, I haven't.
I haven't met a lesbian who likes that book, but they keep citing it because it's something that it existed when nothing else existed. I also feel that way about The Price of Salt, which is not a book. I hate that book. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, I think I have a complex with that one because of that. I think I went through a phase of thinking that too.
A little bit. Yeah. I do like Carol though. Okay, so we're gonna do a little lightning round. Okay. Given the choice of anyone in the world, who would you want as a dinner guest?
They have to be alive?
No.
My grandma.
Oh, that's such a nice answer.
Yeah.
I was like, what celebrity could I get over? And you're like, your grandma.
If you want me to pick it, I would pick Miriam Margolyes.
Okay.
If I had to pick a celebrity.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Cool.
What about you? You up there?
Yeah. That's a tough one. Maybe Patricia Highsmith. Because I think she's awful, and I think that she would have a lot of really interesting things. I mean, she was a totally terrible person, and I feel what I've read of her diaries and stuff. I think that she would be a hoot.
That's fun.
Before making a telephone call, do you ever rehearse what you were gonna say?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you write it down?
I generally write it down.
Okay. Yeah. Same. What would constitute a perfect day for you?
Oh, a perfect day for me. I guess I'm just supposed to know. I didn't wake up a lot in the night.
It's an amazing answer. I got the full 8 hours of sleep.
Nothing hurts. My back feels like it's supposed to. I have a nice coffee, and then I work and I don't work and I write. What about you?
I mean, the 8 hours of sleep sound nice.
Yeah.
The good coffee sounds nice.
Yeah.
I guess
Similar.
waking up to an ocean would be really cool.
Oh, you're thinking that's better. I should be thinking
I mean, you're thinking way more practical than mine.
Yeah.
I'm I would love to open the French door.
I have $1 million.
Yes.
A coffee in my bag.
I mean, a coffee by the ocean sounds pretty cool.
That's much nicer, yeah.
Okay, related to your book, do you have a secret hunch about how you will die?
I do. I think, well, no, I don't. It would be nice to die as an old lady, but it's okay if I don't. What about you?
I have a really depressing answer,
Oh, no.
but so I don't know if it.
No, Dad, we have to do it now. You said that.
I'm almost certain that at some point I'm going to get cancer.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a high chance for most people, right?
Yeah, so I tested recently for the BRCA
Oh,
one
you
gene
did?
and I have it, so it's
Oh.
like taking time bomb
Is
there.
there
But
things you can do? Why did you test? Just to.
my mom died from cancer,
Oh.
and so it was kind of a thing. That
Right, so
I
it's
had to
good
do.
to know.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do, like screening or things like that?
Yeah, regular
That's good.
screening.
Okay.
Sorry to take it there, guys. You can also just like chop off your breasts.
Right. Oh, yeah. Happy book talk. Yeah.
All right. In that same vein, if you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you're living?
Yeah, I would.
You get that full 8 hours of sleep.
Well, no, I wouldn't sleep at all.
That's true.
I would not do anything healthy anymore. Yeah, I always try to walk. I wouldn't walk ever again. No, yeah. What about you?
Do you have like a last meal? Like, is it maybe related?
I think I would be, well, hopefully I would get to like the state of that, but I feel like I'd be like so upset. Like, food doesn't.
Oh, you
sucks.
don't feel like you would enjoy it. Okay.
What about you?
I haven't had McDonald's French fries in a really long
Oh, I thought you
time.
were gonna just finish this statement there. I was like, we're going. That's so sad.
I think that would be my last meal.
Okay.
I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
I'm gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could wake up tomorrow having gained any one quality or ability, what would it be?
A quality or ability? Is it okay? I wish that I could speak all languages.
That's a good one. That's
What
a
about
good
you?
one. Speed reading would be
Oh,
cool.
that's better.
I mean, is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wish I could speak.
Speaking all languages would be cool, but I guess like
Well,
if you're just like
kind of-
alone all the time, like who cares?
Yeah. Well, I feel like you could say speed read all. You could make yours include mine. There's a way to phrase yours in a way that's both.
I could just speed read like Duolingo and
Yes.
stuff. Yeah, and just like
Yeah.
okay. We could combine that. Is there something you've dreamed of doing for a long time that you haven't, and why haven't you done it?
Is there something I dreamed of? Nothing is coming to mind, which is kind of sad. I should probably
Is it sleeping 8 hours?
sleeping 8 hours. Like places I'd like to do, I guess, but nothing.
Such
to-
as?
Korea. What about
Okay.
you?
I mean, if we're keeping it in Asia, like visiting Kyoto would be really cool.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
I'm
cool.
afraid of getting on a plane for that amount of time.
That's a
now.
long play. Yeah,
It's
you
a long
need to
flight.
find some. There's tricky ways to get like business when you have a certain credit card. You gotta find
Yeah.
you gotta find the sneaky ways to make that flight nice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Raw dog it.
No.
God, I hate that word.
Yeah.
I hate that we're using that as a phrase.
Yeah, yeah. Special
Open
things.
it up to questions from the audience.
I'll take the mic around so we can.
Do you have a favorite true crime podcast?
Do you ever listen to True? No.
I listened to Serial, the first.
Serial was good. That one was good. This is lame, but this one is called Canadian True Crime. I don't even know if it's that good, but yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned Boy Genius. Can you assign like each of your book to each member of Boy Genius?
Oh,
Grade
geez.
them?
That's a good one.
Oh man, I'm gonna overthink it. I think Julian for the poetry, because of the religious drama thing. I know they all probably have it. Lucy does too, I think. But Lucy to everyone in this room. And I guess Phoebe to We Could Be Rats. I guess. It's a fun question. Yeah.
I can ask about the book, did you have any alternate titles, or was this like the first title you thought of and you stuck with it from the beginning?
You know, normally when I write a book, I like have no title. This was one where I did have. This was the one title, I think. Do you remember? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, not this time, but normally yes. So I'm very. Just this time was the one time that the answer is one. Thanks for the question. How about you when you title stuff? Do you have?
That would the title of my book is a line of dialogue spoken by one of the characters, and I tried out like a bunch of different titles, mostly just like a list of St. Vincent songs, so it was sort of like when I wrote this line of dialogue, I was like, it's kind of a mouthful, but I think that should be the title. A lot of people ask me if this has anything to do with vampires. Because what we do in the shadows,
Right.
but no.
Any more questions? Oh.
Hi. I was just wondering what inspired you to write a book about two sisters.
Yeah, well, I have two older sisters, so like I think I said earlier, like when I write a book, I tend to think like, oh, what are some things that have happened? You know, what are some experiences I've had? And I've had the experience of having sisters, so I thought that's something I could write about. Yeah, and I think I like sister stories. Like I like reading a story that centers sisters. I think sister relationships are like an interesting sort of complicated relationship. So yeah.
In my first year of my MFA program, the very first thing I submitted was a short story about two sisters.
Cool.
And my professor was like, "You're an only child." Thanks.
I know you said you pulled like from church trauma for everyone in this room, like you relate to, but also that book has like the most realistic mental health rep I've ever read, especially like health anxiety and things. So I was wondering if that was also something you pulled from personally, or
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
because it was literally my thoughts on page, and I was like, wow.
Sorry to be this person. As an agent asking you a question, as a plant, did you have a toy that you were most obsessed with as a child? Your Barbie stuff is very realistic to me. I feel like I also had a whole village situation. Like,
Yeah.
what was the one that you were like, remember most playing with?
Yeah, so a big part of this story has to do with this. Sigrid has created like a civilization of toys in her basement, and that is another thing that I pulled from my life. Like when I was a kid, we had this unfinished basement, and I had this. Do you have Playmobil in this thing? Okay, yeah. I had a little Playmobil doll, and I did like, my mom cleaned the basement once, and I think she vacuumed it up, and it, yeah. So I think of her, this little like plastic Lego like little.
What was your name?
I think her name was Sarah, which is yeah, Sarah, the Playmobil, brown hair, yeah, little pink shirt.
Was there anything in the book that you originally had in and then later took out that wouldn't be a spoiler?
Definitely took a lot of stuff out. Yeah. It's hard to remember. I have when I write something, I tend to like write a page and then erase 75% of it, and I can't remember if maybe when we were editing, maybe we got rid of stuff that. I can't remember anything that stands out like that, but I definitely got rid of a lot that was in here. Sometimes when I'm, this is bad information management, but sometimes when I'm writing, I'll email the version of it to myself just because I'm like, oh, my computer's gonna break and this way I have an email of it. It should be in my OneDrive or something, I don't know why I do that. Anyways, and I have seen old versions where I'm like, what? What was I talking about? That doesn't make any sense, so. Yeah. On with it is.
One of my favorite parts of the book is the relationship with Greta, and I would love to hear about maybe like from your childhood, was there somebody who like you pulled from, and also like what was that like having somebody who like really understood you
Yeah.
and how that kind of manifested in the book?
Yeah, so there's like a best friend sort of relationship in the story where they have kind of stopped being best friends when they get older, but they were really close when they were younger. A few things, I had this experience in this small town where I had this little group of friends who, I think this is an experience a lot of queer people have, where when you're kids, you don't realize it, but when you're older, you're like, oh, you were all queer, and especially in that environment that I was in, because it was in like Catholic school, small conservative town, and for a lot of them, it was like not until they were like late 20s that it was like, oh, you're gay. And like anyone who wasn't in that group, it was like, I think you are. So that was, because that's sort of part of it, it's part of that story there. But yeah, and there was also like, there's also a little bit in this book that those two friends go to this like kind of campground, and that was a part of where I grew up. There was like this junky campground where you'd like throw horseshoes. There was like a pool instead of any water, and people would set up RVs for like the whole summer, and there was a whole little ecosystem there that was interesting. Because my family never lived there, I would only go to like visit a friend, and they had this whole little society. It was like they were neighbors in a weird way because they were living outside. It was just like, it felt like a cult, but in a nice way. So that's sort of that too, yeah.
I just have a question about the writing versus publishing. So you said you started this in 2020, but you've been like publishing books like the last couple of years. Were you writing them all at the same time, or is it how you published them, the order that you wrote them in?
I think the way they were published is like when they were finished. But I do tend to like, I'll write something, get to like 30 pages and be like, I'm not gonna, that's bad. And then I start to write something new, and then I get to 30 pages and I go, oh, that's bad. And then I think, oh, I should go back to that other thing. And then I open and then they slowly grow, and then it's sort of like a little bit of a race. And when everyone gets to the end, so this one beat a few others, and all the others, but it always went, like I finished everyone in this room first, and I finished Interesting Facts About Space, and I finished this book. But I think I was writing this at the same time as Interesting Facts About Space.
I do feel like some of them have the same aspects, like it is like you're writing, so it all is gonna have the same aspects, but like you can kind of see it,
Yeah.
which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
All right, Emily, do you have a rat tattoo? Do you plan on getting a rat tattoo? And if not, as your marketer, can you film yourself getting a rat tattoo?
Yeah, sure. I should get one. My friend just got a mouse tattoo. I was like, a mouse? What is this?
Any last, another one, yeah?
I was wondering what inspired the book design of the cover, because it's very pink, which I like. But I'm just wondering if you worked closely with the
There's
jacket
people,
designer.
there's folks here who maybe can see better, I don't know, but, the way that it works from my end is they'll oft, like, oh, what did we do? I sent you asked for my, sorry, I'm talking to Jake here, who's my editor.
I want to make these
Yeah.
amazing mood boards that we go off of.
Yeah. I go on Pinterest and make some kind of crappy mood board, and I don't know what happens behind the scenes, but then they come back with lots of beautiful options, and then there was a blue one I remember. I don't know what all goes into it, but
I think this one we were trying to touch on the nostalgia piece.
okay, that's a better answer.
It's a big
Very
one.
good. Yeah. Beautiful answer.
Any last questions? Oh,
Hi, I think this is the first book that Lou makes an appearance in, if I remember right. How did you decide which book?
I actually think Lou makes a very sneaky appearance in every book.
I'm so sorry I didn't cover
No,
that.
they're very similar. Lou's my cat, so I always say my cat, Lou.
Alright, is that it? I want to thank you both for such a great conversation, and for Emily for bringing your book to us, and all of you for coming out tonight. and being a part of this, so thank you very much. Before we break down, I just want to let you know, the authors will be signing here, and we will pick up these chairs first, so you can line up on this side. And I encourage you to go to our website, sign up for our weekly newsletter. We've got a great author program this spring, almost spring, hopefully spring soon. So we'd love to see you all back. And I also want to give a shout out to Katie O'Brien Smith for being your #1 fan, and making sure you got here. So thank you, Katie.